Everyone, good morning. Good morning, Monday morning. Day 106 of spiritual healthcare. So welcome everybody. Hope you guys had a really great weekend. I had a really great weekend. I hope you guys had an awesome time. We were super busy this weekend. It was crazy. Like, had a little bit of time off, but spent a lot of time doing working on some shows and pyro and all sorts of stuff like that. So yeah, it's like just like so much in the works this weekend. It's crazy. So good morning to everyone. As I say, day 106, and some really, really great stuff coming up this afternoon, including the role of imagination in investigations, and as well as a little bit on narcissism and online posts. So there's going to be a bunch of different things that we're hashing through today, but the role of investigations and imagination, and extending your net, we will talk about today as well. And your relationship with your line of achievement. So we're going through a whole bunch of things today. Good morning to Amanda and Dan and Patricia and Suzette. It's nice to see you guys. Nice to see everybody coming on. It's so awesome to see y'all. I hope you guys are having a really great Monday morning. It's been really, really warm here, and it's going to get warmer. Toronto, though, however, I got a message from one of my friends in Toronto, and she is sitting at plus 40, which is around 109 or something like that Fahrenheit. But and it was like 8 a.m. So. I'm so sorry, Toronto. Good morning to Sally. Nice to see you. It's nice to see you guys this morning. Day 106, and we're gonna have a hot day today, but it's not gonna be near what Toronto's sitting at. That's for sure. I know a lot of you guys are in heat waves right now. Sally says it's actually like it's raining. It's cloudy and raining. That's like a first for you guys this summer. You guys have been like just slammed with heat. It's crazy. So yeah, we're going to talk about lots this morning because some really great questions that have come in the door. As I say, including some of the stuff that I've just been observing with people and whatnot, interacting online, and dealing with some crazy online in the paranormal community lately, as well as I say, imagination and investigations. I want to talk about that and the importance of not getting stuck in your ideas, because I think a lot of people end up getting stuck in their ideas and then it becomes worthless. So when is imagination good in investigations, and when isn't it? It's a really big question, and it can end up screwing us up in a lot of areas as well, because of course, it becomes very easy in certain environments to become very suggestible too. So there's so much to cover in all of this. So good morning to Kaz, good morning to Marge. Nice to see you guys. The weekend here was really good. The studio that I work in, it sometimes has a hot tub, so that's part of what I did yesterday was hot tub. So that was really good, but lots of stuff coming up, I think, and working on more fire stuff and more fire videos and all sorts of things. So always something going on. And Para X Radio apparently is going to be having me on in October, which is going to be really fun. So that should be interesting. It's interesting. People are already booking. It's crazy how fast the summer is going. People are already booking for October and stuff. It's nuts. So yeah, I hope you guys had a really, really good weekend. We've got a good start to the week. So the first thing that I wanted to grab onto today was about investigations and paranormal groups and online stuff and online posts, because there's been a lot going on in the paranormal community right now in regards to people dealing with traumatic things happening to them, and then the relationship between them and their fans, and how they're putting themselves out there, and whatever. And I wanted to grab onto this a little bit, because it doesn't apply just to the paranormal world. It really applies to a vast variety of subject matters in people's lives and social media and all that kind of thing. But we've talked in the past classes about things like narcissists and things like that, and it's so easy. There is nothing on the planet like dealing with a narcissist and feeling the level of rage that you can that you end up experiencing when you're dealing with these people. Like, there's nothing on the planet. The only people who understand this truly are the people who have had actual dealings with this type personality disorder, whether it be malignant narcissism or narcissistic personality, according to the DSM. And like really, unless you have dealt with these people, you don't know the level of like pure rage that you end up in, because they're just, they hit all your triggers. Like they know what they're doing, and they hit all your triggers. But one thing I've noticed over the last little while is like the people that I know that have dealt with these people, and whatever, and have been, traumatized by them in different ways and whatever, whether it be like emotional abuse, physical abuse, spiritual, mental, whatever has happened in their experience. It's just so easy for them to turn around now, because, and once they feel like they're within a safe distance of these people, then they begin to start to post this stuff online and just blow up the internet with all the things, trying to prove that where they were in their experience was right. And I think the reason why this happens, it's really understandable, because once you've been gaslit by these people enough, your immediate instinct is to turn around and to start to want to prove that you were right. Like, this is what they did. And it comes off very much as sort of a victim stance at times, but it really does come from this place of you feeling completely discredited, and you're trying to prove that you were right and prove to other people that you were right. However, the problem is that, and I was explaining this to a couple of people lately who've been in the paranormal community, who've been posting about their experience with narcissists, is the fact that as soon as you invest that time and energy into them, once you've removed yourself from them, and you start posting about them, or you start, attacking them, or, trying to prove you're right and things like that, the more that there's a few different points about this. Number one is the more you post about them, the more attention they're getting and the happier they are. So the more attention that you are feeding to these people, whether it's negative, whether you're, you've got good points, bad points, whatever's going on, whatever you're posting, the fact that they are in your post is making them ridiculously happy. So that's part of the problem, is that you're actually feeding into them and feeding what they're looking for. So that's part of it. The second part of it is that ultimately, on a legal side, you're actually setting yourself up for slander, a lawsuit. So there's that as well, because the last thing you want with with these people, with narcissists, is to end up in court with them. They are the worst human beings to end up in court with, because they take no prisoners. They do not care. And you don't want to end up in a situation where you are apologizing to your abuser in the courthouse because you've slandered them or something like that. So that's a big issue. So we don't want to. You don't want to be posting about these people online. It just doesn't work. And apart from that, it really does rob you of whatever peace you now have from whatever individual you're dealing with. They really take pride in getting emotional reactions, and as soon as you give them that emotional reaction, then all of a sudden, bam, you're feeding into what they wanted. People often forget, or they don't know, that the narcissistic personality, or the malignant narcissist, really does get a kick out of seeing you upset. So the more that you are posting about how upset you are and how wrong they did you, the more they're kind of checking off those boxes, going like, yay, doing my job, gotta keep this up, gonna keep this up, this is good, look, she's still posting about me, or he's still posting about me. So it just, and the damn thing is, too, speaking about the legal angle of this, and this is in regards to other paranormal groups, like if you guys are Des says I left at 7 p.m. on the tweet. Oh, I did too. Damn. Okay. Thank you, Des. Thank you for pointing that out. I did. I will change that. I will change that tomorrow. It's too late now. I'll change it tomorrow. But yeah, so I think we really have to start thinking about this in a brand new way, and to begin to understand that as we're putting out these messages of, look what this person did, and look what look at what they've done to me. And Marge is completely correct. She's saying you end up looking like the wacko. Yeah, and there's it's a huge part of the problem. Like you end up sitting back And, you know, because nobody else has seen anything that the narcissist has done or this abuser has done, you know, you end up looking crazy because you're putting all this stuff out there, and it's just ramping up and ramping up and ramping up. And it looks terrible in court. It really does. You really do set yourself up for like slander. If you've got kids, you're setting yourself up for looking like, you know, sort of the crazy parent. That's not good. You really have to be careful about how you are venting and purging that energy. Because the thing with narcissistic personalities and abusive personalities like that is that they kind of cause you to stuff so much energy within yourself. Like you just become, you become so pissed off and angry all the time. And then once they blow up, you're not having to put on that front anymore, because you're not trying to, you don't have to worry about making them mad anymore. And you know, you kind of let that all loose, but to do it online, anywhere where it's written down, like on Facebook or like anywhere it's publicly written down, don't do it, because they guarantee they are probably making fake accounts, and they are like hooking up with your account, and you're friending them and you don't even know it. And they're, you know, there's also, yeah, and they're like they're copying this, trust me, like they're copying all this down. And you don't want to be doing that. So like they will build a case against you. They are absolutely brilliant at it. It's crazy. So anyway, so I wanted to bring that up because I've been seeing some of that on Instagram lately with a few people. So anyway, the question that I loved about to get this whole thing started today, which I just thought was great, was, it was posted by Eric Perry, and I wanted to weigh in on it because I thought it was brilliant, which is, do most paranormal investigators let their imaginations get out of hand when it comes to the paranormal and research and stuff like that, and when they're in these locations? And so this is such a great question, because when we get into the realm of the paranormal, of course, the imagination becomes something that is important, because we know that what we're thinking, how we're thinking about it, what our expectations are actually creating the reality around us. So this is a pretty big question when it comes down to it. And, you know, do investigators let their imaginations actually run wild and create some of the phenomenon that's around them? And yeah, absolutely. The answer is yes. You know, sometimes that totally happens. And, you know, when people are on high alert, when their awareness is at its peak, we start to look for things to match our expectations, which becomes a problem when we're trying to be objective. So we have to really be careful about that when we're going into these buildings, we're going into these places, and we've got, you know, we've got an expectation that it's haunted. We've got an expectation of the type of activity because we've usually read about it or have been interviewing witnesses. So we're waiting for these certain things to happen. And then often, you know, if something does occur that's not related to paranormal phenomenon, then all of a sudden we're going, you know, oh my God, well, maybe that was this or that. And we're relating to it. But it goes even deeper than that if we're careful not to be objective into these things. And that is, and I love this concept of, that I was kind of messing around with and reading about this weekend, about extending your net. So imagination and investigators translates not only into the haunted building side of things, but it also translates into their world and their career. Like how good your imagination is and how much you are willing to invest in the ideas and trust in the ideas that you're having really does begin to extend into the rest of your experience. So what I have noticed over the years, and this is the one thing that's driven me absolutely nuts. I was having actually a conversation about this with some of my production team yesterday, because we were all sitting around the pool and talking about this. And artists often have this problem where imagination and execution become disconnected. So especially if we're dealing with something like a haunted place, for instance, you know, we can go into that location and, you know, people will come in, they'll record the evidence or whatever, and then nothing goes on with it, nothing happens. And it becomes sort of logged into a file somewhere in somebody's house or whatever, and it just disappears. And this is something that happens with ideas as well. It happens with ideas all the time. And if we're not willing to extend the net and follow through, it's like a fisherman's net. The net does not work unless you toss that damn thing, right? It just doesn't. If it's sitting in your boat, it's really cool. It's a nice idea. It's a nice additive to your boat. You look like a fisherman. Guess what? You're not a fisherman. You have not thrown the net out. It's not working. It's just sitting there. So if you're going around on your boat and there's no, and you've got the fishing net in your boat and, you're driving around calling yourself a fisherman, that's not reality, right? So if we have to start thinking about extending our net and our relationship with our line of achievement. Okay, so what I mean by that is what exactly has been achieved based on the idea that you've come up with. And it seems like such a simple concept because it seems like something that's like, okay, well, this should just make sense. Of course, we're looking at results and things like that. But oftentimes this is something where people's ideas kind of fall short and we think about it and we mistake the idea of thinking about it for actually achieving something within that goal and that timeline and goal set. So the idea of really, if you've got an idea and you're not willing to execute on it, with action, the idea is worthless, is essentially worthless. It's not going to amount to anything. And the ability to execute, and this is where it gets to be a really big deal, whether it be in your job or whether it be with a client, because especially with investigations, this becomes a big deal. If you've got an idea and your ability to execute that idea or show up or, do whatever it is that is required of you, it becomes a breach of integrity. And this is the big issue. And we see this with investigators and things like that all the time, but we see it with people in their relationships and their jobs. If you've got a set standard, and you have got to execute on a certain level, and especially if that level is of excellence, if you have to execute at the level of excellence, this becomes a breach of trust if you don't do your part. So the people that are around you cannot trust you. They cannot rely on you to continue to follow through with this. So that imagination and what we are imagining in our experience really does become super important as to how we want to invest and follow through with that idea. We know that the universe will back us up. We know that it will turn around and start to fuel whatever it is, whatever that idea is that we have. But that casting of that net is what ultimately is going to set this stuff into motion for you. And I'm a huge believer in the fact that when we set an intention and we start to take those steps and take those steps forward, then things will show up for us doors will open that we have not seen. But and it will blow your mind. It will blow your mind what will show up and what will happen. But this is the thing, is that if we keep it in imagination and we don't start to take those steps forward, it's almost like the universe just doesn't take us serious. And the universe it's like the universe starts to look at us and go, okay, wait a minute, this person isn't willing. If I bless them with the steps, if I give them those steps, then they're not going to move on those steps. So I can't give them the blessing. I can't give them what it is that they're looking for, because I know if I offer that opportunity up, they're not going to take it. So the universe is really interesting because it requires that momentum and those steps forward in order for you to actually see this stuff come to pass. So it's a really interesting relationship that ends up going on. It's an interesting dynamic, but imagination and execution is massively huge, and both of them are completely tied in together. You can't have one without the other, or you won't move forward from imagination without the execution part. When we see this in investigation, then we see this in the paranormal community kind of play out, is where people get these really big ideas about, what they're going to do, whether it be, usually it's like a team or they're putting something together, and they fail to understand what is going to be required of them moving forward, especially with their clients. They don't understand or realize that they're investing in people that are needing help. That they need to have the knowledge behind them, that they're dealing with legalities, they're dealing with, emotional problems, they're dealing with, people who are going broke. They're dealing with all of these different things. And, we think sometimes that it's just going to be about going into these haunted places and experiencing whatever we're going to experience and leaving. But we really do forget that it's like, these are real people with real issues and real problems. And if we are stuck in the world of imagination without that element of execution, then we start to run into those two big problems, which is the idea goes nowhere, which means it's worthless. And then we develop that problem with breach of integrity, and then breach of trust follows after that. And those are just like consistent, and then you've got people pissed off at you and mad at you and whatever, because you're just not doing your job. So it's something to think about. So anyway, I wanted to read a little bit on this, which I thought was from, as I say, one of my favorite books, which is Instinct by Mr. T.D. Jakes, and it is phenomenal. Bishop T.D. Jakes he's an incredible guy, and just such a motivator in not only like just personal things, but business and all sorts of stuff. But I found this today, and I wanted to read this to you because I thought it was just so on point. So check this out. A net doesn't work until it's thrown. No fisherman would make a net for fishing and leave it on the boat. You must know how to leverage your alliances by turning your integration strategy into action points. Execution is critical for accomplishment. If you don't execute the plans you have in place, it doesn't matter how inspired you might be, it doesn't matter how meticulously you look for the common touch points of integration, and it doesn't even mean much if you integrate my needs into your plans. Inspiration without execution will always lead to frustration. Whenever I look across the field and see beyond my line of achievement, it always means that relationship will be the bridge that takes me there. If I build a relationship on proposals and promises but fail to execute what I predicted, it won't be long before I've lost my opportunity to play on the wider field. If you can't learn to be a part of the team and transform ideas into actions, then ideas become worthless. And it is just like, he's just so super on point with that. So on point with that. I love this book, by the way. It's so good. It's so good. So I wanted to throw that out there today because I think it's a great time, where, things are starting to open back up. There is a whole lot of crazy going on in the world right now. And everybody's got different ideas about how they want to move into our new experience, into this world, whether it be through in our jobs, in our goals, in our strategies, whatever that is. But we've got to start thinking about what we're willing to execute on. What are we willing to push that button on? Because if we're not, then people are gonna drown at that point. We do have an evolving world, and to be able to extend your net, make those connections, especially, if you're one of those people that's still in quarantine, for instance, you've traveled, you're sitting there your 14 days, we've got to be able to make those connections. We have to be able to be talking to people actively, because what'll happen, and what I've noticed has been happening, because there's been a few people I know that have been complaining about this, is the fact that without that evolution, without that active evolution, the problem is you become obsolete really fast, right? Well, it's like software. If the software is not getting used, if it's not getting utilized, if it's not being up to date, if it's not being active and physically putting yourself out there and going, look, here's who I am, here's why you need me, I am open, I am free to pick me. If you can't do that on a especially in careers right now, you hands down, you're going to become obsolete very quick. I had a phone call from a friend recently who's an engineer, and he ended up he had to get another job right now because he lost his job due to COVID, and he's been struggling looking for work and all that kind of thing. And he finally got another job, but he called me and he was like, what's crazy is the fact that, if I hadn't have been actively looking, I would have remained completely obsolete. And the new job that he has had to move into is not what he was doing before. He had to evolve into this next thing. And I think we've got to really start thinking about, if you've got that idea, if you've got something that's moving around in your imagination, now is the time to be executing on this stuff. Because if we don't, we're going to miss the boat. We're going to miss the boat on a lot of stuff right now, because everybody's rebuilding. Everybody's rebuilding, and you've got to be, you want to be one of those blocks that is included in that rebuilding, because if you're not, then yeah, people are just, they're going to move on. So it's always something to think about. And as I say, not showing up, breach of integrity, breach of trust, and it's done, so it's so important. So I hope that is something to think about for Monday. I thought it would be a good Monday topic, because Monday, and getting back into the swing of the week and whatnot. But I wanted to bring that to you guys, because I think we really need to start to work our mindsets into pro you. Be pro you, because the other people are not going to be pro you. They're not. They got their own shit to worry about. They're not going to be pro you. Be pro you. Be the salesman, because there are so many talking points about who you are and how you can contribute to where we are going forward in this world. But it might not look like what you were doing before. Might not. Might be something new. So everybody, time to do some affirmations and get into our Monday. Everybody take a breath. I am a channel of peace and well-being, and my need for peace is abundantly met. I unconditionally accept, love, and appreciate myself and who I am. I recognize and am grateful for the abundance that is constantly flowing into my life, which I can allow or not. I feel with every breath a sense of peace and love. I help others by maintaining and tending to my connection with Source as much as possible. This well-being is accessible to me, even in a sea of uncertainty. And at this moment, all is well. I'm able to liberate myself from my past and live with peace and serenity. I can see and appreciate all the beauty and abundance of the life around me. I'm able to embrace love while letting go of fear. And I find peace with the soothing silence of my inner being. Everybody take a breath. Kaz is saying, I keep hearing to own it, and it's hard, but I'm learning. Yeah, absolutely. And it's tricky. It's really tricky, and it's a brand new, it's a brand new way of thinking, I think, in a world where we've really been taught to sort of look, and we've got a political arena that's very blameful right now. Everybody's blaming everybody else for everything. Nobody is, and people have lost sight of the big picture terribly, like really bad. People are just losing sight of the big picture. So we'll continue on some of this tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Mountain Time, as always. Thank you guys so much for everything, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Have an amazing Monday, you guys. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you all then. Bye, guys.